It's here. It's real. The JOJOLands is real, everyone. We've got a new JoJo, a new cast, a new location, and a new era for JoJo fans. I'm a relatively new fan when compared to most people, but I'm just as excited to be reading a new part of JoJo's from the very beginning. The very first page to JoJoLands is pretty interesting, actually. It starts with a little blurb talking about stands, saying, powers that have forms and shapes but are invisible. They are called stands. They exist all over and always have, but they are simply unseen by those that do not try to see them. On the same page, we see a bunch of stands from all the different parts, from Soft and Wet to Sex Pistols to Killer Queen to Tusk, and then there's Ebony Devil. I had to go Google who is Ebony Devil because I literally could not remember this stand. Apparently he fought Polnareff at one point. And then the very first page shows the protagonist, JODIO Joestar. And the location of this new part, this new setting, the islands of Hawaii. It takes place on the island of Oahu, and we see two police officers pulling over a truck that has some surfboards in the back. They approach and we are introduced to our new protagonists, JODIO Joestar and Dragona Joestar. I don't quite know how to pronounce their name. Dragona. I'm just gonna go with Dragona for now. Now, this police officer tries to do some not so professional things, and this is when we learn something important to Dragona's character. There's been a lot of discourse and discussion in the JoJo community on Dragona's gender, but some people have stated that Araki could be referring to the idea of Mahu, the third gender that is present in Polynesian cultures such as Hawaii and Tahiti, but JODIO calls them Big Bro. As Dragona is being assaulted by this police officer, JODIO steps out of the car and begins to approach. The cop's partner starts threatening him, pulling out his gun and pointing it at him, but JODIO gives 0 Fs. When the cop grabs JODIO, all of a sudden, water drops fall from the sky and knock him down with such force that there are indentations on his body. And this is where we are introduced to JODIO's stand, November Rain. It's a pretty unique looking stand for a protagonist, really. Most of them are humanoid, but this one is more like an alien or a crab or something to that extent. But I really like this design. I think the face just looks really cool. And its angry looking eyes really represents the anger that's inside of JODIO. As the other cop who was assaulting Dragona points his gun towards JODIO, Dragona puts their hand on the cop's face, shifting his eyes to the side of his face. This stand, which is called Smooth Operators, can move objects around, kind of like Josuke Higashikata's Crazy Diamond. JODIO's stand defeats the cop, and he just jumps in the air and starts kicking the crap out of him. Dragona eventually pulls him off. JODIO, without hesitation, goes and burns the police car so that their dashcam data could be destroyed. Dragona's stand, Smooth Operators, changes the license plate numbers, and the two leave. They end up in a junkyard and are met by people with guns. These are drug dealers. And inside the surfboards that JODIO and Dragona were transporting, drugs are stashed. They're paid and they leave. And this is the point where JODIO becomes the narrator. And he talks about his mom and how she's well respected by people in the community. There are always people there to carry her bags for her and to have an umbrella over her head. The neighborhood respects her because her kids are protecting her. Let's talk about characters. JODIO was speculated to be the alternate version of GIORNO, and I think it's safe to say that that prediction is pretty accurate. Design elements aside, JODIO has Dio in his name. I feel like that's quite the giveaway, and a little on the nose. Both GIORNO and JODIO are 15 years old as well, and they are both criminals, except Part 9 is a bit of a broken mirror version of Part 5, in that GIORNO's whole goal was to get rid of the drug problem in Italy, when JODIO is the drug problem in Hawaii, but still, he has much less of a moral compass when it comes to drugs compared to GIORNO. However, both GIORNO and JODIO have similar personality traits. They are very confident and fearless. Even as guns are being pointed at JODIO's head, he does not flinch. He continues on his path. He is silent and keeps quiet until someone that he loves is in danger, and he explodes into anger. With GIORNO, we can see the two sides of Dio and Jonathan in him. In JODIO, it's more like a combination of Dio and Joseph Joestar, I would say. Moving forward, we see a family tree showing the Joestar lineage. Again, Joseph is the grandson of Johnny from Part 7, and as Yoshikage Kira was the grandson of Joseph, so is JODIO. And so that makes the protagonists of Part 9 and one half of the protagonists of Part 8, I guess, cousins. Anyway, on the bus going to school, JODIO is confronted by another student asking if he's got the stuff. Off the bus, JODIO takes his money and puts it in his notebook. Then some guy in a motorized scooter rolls on in and tells him where to find the drugs. JODIO goes to school and sees the principal. And something I only noticed on a second read-through is that he handed her his notebook with money in it. So JODIO contemplates why he goes to school. It's not to learn, it's not to make friends, it's for the mechanism of it, so he says. Now this idea permeates his entire ideology, and it's something that's a bit confusing to understand. When he was 11, he got his first job to be a gopher, or to transport money from one place to another, and that's how he got into the drug business. Doing his job well and not saying more than he was supposed to got him a lot of respect, and this respect kept him and his family safe. He talks about how the mechanism or system of trust has power, and he compares himself to his one guy who gets bullied, even though he's bigger and probably smarter and richer than JODIO. But like, what's the difference? And we see what is now a classic JoJo meme. Meanwhile, I'm like this, and also like this. These two panels are very memeable, very funny, but also show a bit of the difference between JODIO and GIORNO at the same time. JODIO enjoys his life and the respect that he's gained because of his trade. JODIO says that this story is about him getting incredibly rich. He says, maybe you think I have no humility and that I'm full of myself or something. When I say incredibly rich, sure, I mean making lots of money, but there's something else at play that's way more important than that. Mechanisms. They're universal. They're always there, which means even if I had enemies, I've already beaten them. These mechanisms won't be taken away or destroyed. They are the logic and reason of this world by which wealth flows to me. There's just something about it that makes me want to use the word mechanisms instead of systems. It's similar to an ecosystem. There's an apex of the mechanisms. I just can't see it yet. But these mechanisms will come to appear in front of our eyes in physical forms and shapes. Again, another example of the broken mirror version of part 5, in which he does not have a goal as noble as stopping the drug trade in Italy, but of just becoming as rich as he possibly can. What's interesting though about this idea of mechanisms is the way that JODIO describes it parallels a lot what the manga cut from the first page is saying about stands, how they have forms and shapes but are invisible, and that they exist all over and always have. They're universal, but are unseen by those that do not try to see them. Anyway, the rest of the story takes place at a local boutique called Iko, which is where JOJOLands works. And we meet this character named Paco. He was the guy with the scooter that told the other dude where the drugs were. And we learn about his stand, The Hustle, in which he can move his muscles or his body parts to like grab things, for example, like his bicep, like a hand, and just grab it in a weird way. He and JOJOLands have a bit of an altercation because he took a wallet of one of her customers, but then a huge mountain of a lady walks in, and it's the principal we saw from earlier. This panel got me so confused. I was like, is this a weird perspective thing, or are those children shopping, or is she just a giant? She is just a giant. Her name is Meryl May Key. She's 49. She's the principal of a school, runs a fashion boutique, is married, has a kid, and is their boss. And her being their quote-unquote boss is an explanation of why JODIO slyly slipped his notebook to her in the middle of school. She tells the kids about a diamond that she recently heard of. Because she has connections at the airport, she learns that there is a Japanese tourist who is staying for a couple of weeks, who is extremely rich and is in possession of this diamond. So she tasks these kids to go and steal it. And doing so, they will receive a part of the cut. It's worth $6 million, and they would each get 2%, so about $40,000 for each. Until Meryl May says that there will be a fourth person joining them, none other than that one weird dude. What we see in this last panel is JODIO reflecting on the heist that they will go on. What we didn't know is that our boss would be right about strength in numbers. A 3-person team seriously wasn't enough, not even close. No matter how many people we had, it would never have been enough. And that is how the first chapter of JOJOLands ends. I really enjoy this chapter, and it was great to look at it as kind of a broken mirror version of part 5, with a similar premise and similar themes. They've got a crew that's going on a heist to get a lot of money, kind of like the beginning of part 5 when they were looking for Pulpo's fortune. Also, the fact that there's a Japanese tourist visiting Hawaii makes a lot of speculation about who this person could be. Probably one of the characters from part 8. Most likely not Josuke though. If you remember, part 5 started with Koichi arriving in Italy, and I feel like this could be something similar. Maybe Yasuho is coming. Either way, I'm very excited to see how this is going to turn out. I already love these characters, mostly JODIO and JOJOLands. There is still a lot of speculation to be had, but I'm super excited to be seeing where we are going. So that is almost everything you need to know about the JOJOLands so far. There's probably something that I missed, but I hope that overall you are enjoying the part as much as I am. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month for Chapter 2.